Zoom is often thought to be a tool to increase accessibility. For example, in a previous research project, we had educators talk about how they can do virtual field trips in places where they'd never be able to go in real life. Some researchers have pointed out that the multimodality of Zoom means that people who are language learners, or people who just need a few more minutes to think before they speak, can type their answers instead of voicing them. There are other aspects aimed at increasing accessibility in other ways too, like a shared whiteboard or closed captioning. However, it's important to remember that this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, and that in rural places or places with poor to no connectivity or limited numbers of digital devices, it can have the opposite effect. In the past 2 years, we conducted a research study to try to explore if there are ways to make Zoom more accessible in rural places. During the pandemic, our research center explored how different rural school divisions in the province were using technology. From this study, we saw the glaring problem of internet inequity and the creative ways divisions employed to try to deal with the issue. So when we saw researchers shifting their methodologies to online, we wondered if this meant that rural voices would be excluded from important research opportunities just because of the research design. Although there are many strengths to online methodologies, it could also mean increasing inequities if careful attention was not paid to issues like access and equity. We also wanted to know if we could build on the teacher-led creativity that we saw during the pandemic. Could these teachers and administrators, who had been so incredible in making sure their students were able to receive a quality education despite the pandemic and all the challenges they were facing, have something to contribute about ways to make online methodologies more accessible and inclusive? So we started a study aimed at answering these 3 questions. 1. What are the impacts of employing online platforms, such as Zoom, for community-engaged research? 2. What challenges may be encountered by shifting to an online methodology? And 3. How might these challenges be creatively overcome? In Canada, even though rural communities are unique, they are overall characterized by long distances, low populations, lower incomes, and aging populations. We are more likely to have low to no connectivity and less access to digital devices, and we have lower rates of digital literacy overall. So how did we study this? We ran 3 Zoom-based consultations using an action research methodology where each successive Zoom event was redesigned to respond to the complexities of conducting research via Zoom. The first event took place online via Zoom in December 2022. We advertised via social media channels such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, web pages, and also by word of mouth through community partners, with participants signing up in advance. But we had a lower than expected turnout. So our research group had to figure out what went wrong and try to rectify these issues on our second attempt. In our post-consultation survey, one participant remarked that Zoom is great for ease of connecting and connecting over large areas such as a province. However, it is difficult to have a genuine conversation because of delays, etc. Another respondent commented, "Speaking is always daunting, and to make it more informal, more time can be given to having a more relaxed meet and greet, and then proceeding into another session with a discussion." To address these concerns and ensure our second Zoom event would be well attended with more participation, we planned a longer time frame to allow participants to sign up before the event. We also decided to include incentives for participation, a random draw for 2 iPads and gift cards for the first 100 participants who signed up and attended the event. While the second event attracted enough participants, several problems became apparent throughout the Zoom event. Many participants chose not to turn on their cameras, leading to communication problems and confusion about whether a participant was present. In the words of one participant, the ability to be a black square and possibly check out, not be there, or be multitasking takes away from the dialogue. On the other hand, some participants felt more comfortable interacting via the chat feature, like the survey respondent who said, "I enjoyed being able to type my responses instead of talking. Sometimes it is easier to get my point across by writing with people I do not know." Overall, for our third and final consultation, we knew we had to go back to the drawing board to design a solution that would get even more engagement and to build even more of a sense of community. There was an appetite for engagement and research to occur over Zoom. As one survey participant put it after our second consultation, I was looking for more things like this online research to learn more and to participate more and to listen to other people's perspective. For our third consultation, we created a rural online community-based research framework which captured our considerations in the first two consultations and guided our planning and analysis for the final consultation stage. Here is a snapshot of our framework. First, R stands for rural relationality. Rural relationality involves acknowledging and understanding the unique social dynamics and relationships within rural communities. Relationality can act as a motivational factor in participant recruitment. Conversely, it also makes it easier to opt out if there isn't a relational connection. We decided to build heavily on this relationality in our third consultation design. U is for usability. Usability refers to the need to ensure that the platforms and tools selected are user-friendly and align with the technological literacy of the community members and participants. However, the potential benefits of technology must be weighed in relation with the other aspects of the framework. For example, internet inequity, access to technological devices, digital literacy, and other factors such as language barriers, social connections, or mental health could all impact whether methodological choices result in usability for community members. R is for reliability. Reliability involves establishing trust and dependability in the research process, reflecting a commitment to ethical research practices. As one participant stated, as we become more familiar with Zoom, it becomes more and more effective with building relationships and with establishing trust in the research relationship. Another shared, we had a great group that I felt contributed to a sense of safety and belonging. Participants had the sense that reliability was not something that could be assumed, but had to be intentionally built, and that this was particularly important when conducting research through technology. One participant said, "I know we all try, but we need to be purposeful about trust building in that environment Zoom." A is for accessibility. In order to make research processes and outcomes accessible to community members as both participants and intended beneficiaries of the research, this involves overcoming potential digital divides and ensuring inclusivity. As a result of the emerging theme of accessibility in the first two consultations, the third consultation process was much more explicit in providing support that could mitigate challenges. However, accessibility is not only about joining a research project. It is also about ensuring that participants feel safe and able to contribute in an ongoing way. Thus, despite including support for digital access and other common barriers like childcare, interpretation, and transportation, we also had to consider whose voice was being heard during the consultations. To what extent can community-engaged research be inclusive of the different populations in our communities? Thinking of the intersectional identities of community members, how are we representing the voices of people who cannot attend our consultations for accessibility reasons? Do discussions of inclusion come from a privileged place? What is the best way to address our views of inclusion in community-engaged research? These considerations informed our next design stage. And finally, L is for local buy-in. Local buy-in involves recognizing the importance of community involvement and support throughout the research process, emphasizing the collaborative nature of research and the value of local perspectives. This also impacted our planning. As a final note, each value in the framework intersects with the others. For example, to ensure that research done through technology is user-friendly, researchers must know the participants' levels of expertise in the chosen tools. This requires relationality. It is also related to accessibility, which includes putting supports in place when the requisite expertise is not held. In our third consultation, we shifted from centralized, online-only research to decentralized hubs. We met in schools, community centers, churches, local businesses, etc. We relied on team members and students' community connections to run their own research hub and connected the hubs together through Zoom. Each hub facilitator was tasked with recruiting participants and setting up and managing the research event in their location. This satisfied our rural framework by 1. Increasing rural relationality, since each facilitator was local and already connected somehow with their hub location. 2. Usability, because we relied less on the tech expertise of individuals. 3. Reliability was increased through the trust and dependability in the process. 4. Accessibility was increased through the number and placement of the hubs, making research accessible for participants in each location. 5. and size, these relationships were through brokers, which could have had an impact on feelings of closeness and connection, and may work in opposition to the relationality necessary for engaged community-based research. Secondly, there were many logistical considerations that could be further explored and perhaps open avenues to advocacy. We often felt tension between the demands of things like university process or funding requirements and the individual needs of the project. For example, one community hub hired a local grandmother to make banners for the meeting, but the university and grant needed a receipt in order to reimburse her. These tensions are worth exploring further as they can form barriers to effective engagement in community-based research. A third area to consider is that we had a number of unanticipated things happen in this journey. We had a bunch of spam registrations in our Eventbrite link and had to comb through them to figure out which were legitimate, and had to create a plan in case our Zoom meeting got Zoom bombed by these spam registrants. We had people posting in the chat content, which we believed to be generated by AI, which led to conversations about what was legitimate research participation. We had issues at one hub with a community leader bringing people to the event without following our informed consent procedures, and that data had to be excluded. Each of these are worth further exploration. Finally, we want to circle back to inclusion and accessibility. Sometimes accommodating the needs of one negatively influenced others. For example, some people felt safer to keep cameras off, and we had included this in our ethics protocol. People were free to participate however they felt most comfortable. However, others felt